Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
Hello, Blessing. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good. Hello, Laura. We're going to give people a couple of minutes to join in. There's still a lot of people, joining. So let's give it 5 minutes. Okay?
Yeah.
In the meantime, feel free, everyone else, all the participants, the students, feel free to introduce yourselves if you would like. You can use the chat or turn your camera on and just say hi. Hello, everyone. I see Laura in the chat. I see Julia. Hello. Fran. Indy. Sandra. Joy. Hello, everyone. We're going to wait a couple more minutes and then we will start. In the meantime, while we wait, just a couple of comments. Feel free to use the chat at any time. If any questions come to mind, you can write them there so you don't forget. And please keep your microphone muted if you're not speaking to prevent background noise. Hello, Barbara. Hello, Tino.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Oh, it said that I can use the chat for some reason.
Oh.
Yeah, mine's the same. It says not until the meeting.
Let me check the settings.
Hello, I'm Fabiola. I'm having the same issues with the chat as well. I can write, I can type anything. Thank you.
Okay, interesting. I'm checking the settings. It seems to be allowed for all attendees. I don't know why it is not working for some people.
It says that chat is only available. Oh, now it's just changed. Yeah, during the meeting. Yeah.
Okay, I just changed something. All right,
yeah,
it should work
we
now
did.
for everyone. Perfect. All right, it is 5:05 for you based in the UK. So I think it's time to start. Thank you everyone for joining the very first role model session on career journeys from the wraparound support to the Google certificate. Before getting started and giving Blessing the floor, I will just say a few words about Women for Cyber, who we are and what is it that we do. So my name is Askia. I work for Women for Cyber. I've been working for the nonprofit for a few years now, And as the name says, we work to bring more women into the cybersecurity field through different initiatives, many different projects that we're running. And one of them is the Google Cybersecurity Certificate that you're taking part in. And we contribute to supporting you in achieving the certification on the one hand, but then also supporting you continuing your career after that. And that leads me to introduce you to Blessing. Blessing has been part of our community for a few years now. She's been supporting us. She's also been a mentor and a mentee, and she has been at some point a cybersecurity analyst. So she's here to let you know more about what it means, but also, as you will hear, where can you go from there? Because she's been a cybersecurity analyst, but also so much more. But I don't want to spoil anything, so I'll give Blessing the floor. Thank you very much, Blessing, for joining us today. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm just very excited for the Women for Cyber initiative. I've been part of the community for a couple of years now, and I can tell you that I've benefited from being part of Women for Cyber in ways that I could have never thought that I would benefit from as a woman in cybersecurity. So, it's a wonderful platform and just a really amazing opportunity to connect with different professionals and just learn and grow in the industry. So I'm going to give you like a brief description of who I am, autobiography-ish. I've been in cybersecurity now for about 11 years, which is quite a very long time. I started up very, very early, during my bachelor's years doing ethical hacking, and then the interest just grew. I was already doing a networking engineering course and degree at that time, so that kind of really helped in understanding, like security and information security and networking and all of that stuff. And soon after, I did a master's and I basically just got myself ready for the industry. And during my time doing the master's, I did a master's at University of Limerick in Ireland. Here I'm based in Dublin. I had studied networking and information security engineering. It was an engineering master's, and going from doing a bachelor's and then going straight into a master's, I didn't have a lot of industry experience. I had, practical experience, basically like, in the comfort of my home with my laptop and my VMwares and all of, the home setup. But I wasn't really working for any, industry. So it was very hard at that time to, apply for jobs or to be able to show like a prospects employer that you're aware of what's happening in the industry and you have all the skills. I did have certifications in cybersecurity. I had this, the certified ethical hacking certification. I also did some professional hacking as well. And one thing that made me stand out during the time when I was applying for my first role in cybersecurity was really understanding what the day-to-day jobs were in the industry. So, take a company, financial industry, for example, take a bank, for example. Every bank needs a, cybersecurity department. What are the different roles in that cybersecurity department, and where do you see yourself fitting into those roles? Were the thoughts that I was having at that time. And I really wanted to be, at the forefront of the company's infrastructure, which was really around being a security analyst. So what I did then was I tailored my research to be basically what a security analyst would be doing if they worked for a company. One of the roles or responsibilities of a security analyst is basically monitoring for incidents and using different tools. So what I did was I analyzed the different intrusion detection system tools that were used by analysts, basically showing the employer that I know the roles of the security analyst, and I actually understand the threat landscape and I'm familiar with the tools. And one of the interesting thing about the tools that are used, by security analysts is a lot of them are free and open source. So you don't really need to spend money on getting, enterprise tools. All you just need to do is have the zeal to really set up that, home network, home, practice using community tools like IBM. So the IBM Curator does have, a community version for their CM. So that's something that I was able to kind of initiate at the comfort of my home, being able to show the employer that, I understand the environment, I understand what's needed, and I'm familiar with the tools. And I can tell you for free that my very first job as a security analyst, while I did the final interview with the CEO, he had my research open on his laptops and he asked me questions based off that. So that was something that I was able to do, even though I had, the engineering, the IT computer science engineering degree, and I had the master's in cybersecurity degree. I still had to prove that I understood the threat landscape. I understood what the roles were about. So I know a lot of you on these calls may or may not have similar background as I do, having an IT degree or a cybersecurity degree. So one way I always advise people is you really have to stand out. It's very important for you to stand out. So how do you stand out? You stand out by showing that you've done some homework. You stand out by being able to talk about what your own practical setup looks like. Because when I got into the industry and I had my first job as a security analyst, it was very easy for me to do the job. And not easy in the sense that there were no challenges or it wasn't hard, but I wasn't coming in not knowing how to use any of the tools, even though they were not similar tools. And one thing about the technology and the cyber industry is that all of the tools are very similar. They just have different names and they're owned by different companies, but they all do the same thing. So, I already had that kind of, practical knowledge from the work that I did at the comfort of my home. So that's something that you can also take on and do yourself. Go online, download VMware, set up sort of like a home network and just start playing with different free online tools. So what was my day like as a cybersecurity analyst? I was responsible for 5 companies. So I was working for a managed security service provider at that time, which is very beneficial. It's an equivalent of working for a consulting company. So it was beneficial for me because I was neck deep into it. It was stressful. It was a lot. I was the only woman in the room, as maybe most women would experience in cybersecurity. And I was responsible for basically just monitoring the 5 different companies, carrying out vulnerability assessment using different toolings like CrowdStrike or the IBM vulnerability management tool. I was also responsible for creating incident reports. So um, being a security analyst, it's a lot depending on the company you work for. You might not be able to do vulnerability management, but you will do the monitoring and the incident response. And sometimes you may be able to do a combine of both. And one thing that made me stood out as well was that I enjoyed talking to clients. So I would always, set up a meeting to discuss the cybersecurity posture and based off what I noticed or what I had, assessed with reviewing and monitoring the client's network. So I would always, set up a call to say, well, I'm seeing that, this particular server is getting a lot of attacks at this, time frame. What's the server like? What do you guys do around it? Do you have the right security measures on that? And because the manager at that time noticed that I was very engaging with, with the customers, they basically just started putting me in front of customers all the time. So I would then have in-person meetings where I'm talking about the posture of their environment. I'm discussing the toolings that I think that they should be implementing. And all of that was really great, and it was kind of amazing work at that time. But at the same time, there were challenges that I had faced being in that space. While I did my bachelor's in telecommunications engineering, I was the only woman in the class. So you can think of going to school for 4 years and you're the only woman that in the class and you're surrounded by men. And you know, it's kind of a bias that we are still fighting for even up till today. But you know, I did experience a lot of, you know, doubt, self-doubt, and also doubt from, you know, the people that I worked with. There was a time where I had a manager that would ask my colleague to basically cross-check the work that I was doing, and before it got sent out to the client, not because I had made a mistake before, but just because I was new on the team and I was the only woman on the team. So, you know, that's one thing that I can tell you that I have experienced, not at every role, but even up until the level that I am in right now, where, you know, you have to almost grow a thick skin, but at the same time, you know your craft and own your, you know, your skills, because with the bias that we have in the industry, because women are not a lot as well. So this is one of the huge benefits of different organizations that exist, like Women for Cyber. I also run a non-for-profit called Cyber for Schoolgirls as well. We're really trying to create a community that, you know, when you come into the industry, you wouldn't be the only woman in the room. Because take, for example, now we're about 96 people on this call. If about 75 of you join, you know, a company, there's a very high chance that you would meet a woman in the you know, in the current team that you're going to be joining. And that's, you know, that's a huge benefit, because the less women we are in the industry, the more the bias continues to exist. But when more women are in the industry, when more women in cybersecurity, you know, there is that huge opportunity for, you know, the bias to be broken down, because then, you know, it wouldn't be just one woman doing one great work. It would be about 4 or 5 women, you know, doing great works. I saw a question there that I think I'd like to address before I move on. So Joy is asking, what's the career progression and prospects and salary range from GRC teams, starts from entry level? Um, this is a really good question. I'll answer your first question. This is a really good question because I'm happy now that GRC is a conversation, because that's the aspect that, you know, that I cover in my current role and where I am now with my career. So I moved around. My first role was security analyst, and then I moved into engineering, which is basically more hands-on on the tools, you know, supporting the client with integration. And then I did a bit of consulting, and then I moved into management. It was a very kind of interesting, you know, career paths with, you know, with growing from being very hands-on and technical, but it was also very beneficial for me, because, you know, I understood basically how the technical tools worked. I understood how infrastructure worked. I understood, you know, everything that had to do with, you know, how is this attack going to be mitigated. But the next step that I got into with management was advising, you know, top leaders, stakeholders around, you know, this is how we should do it from a policy perspective. So technical security is basically what, you know, moves the company. But the foundation of every single, you know, information systems is governance, risk, and compliance, because it's the governance and, you know, it's the compliance and the risk that has been identified and assessed and set that will then determine what the technical team will then build on. So take, for example, some of you may be familiar with the ISO 27001 standards. That's the information security management system, basically, that we all build our best practice for cybersecurity. So if, you know, the ISO 27001 requires us to have things like access controls or password management, what that translates back to the technical team is they need to get a tool that can create, you know, passwords that would be easy to use, easy to remember, at the same time secure. So if a company doesn't really have, you know, that governance in place, the technical team isn't really going to be able to know what to do or do their jobs to the best ability. The industry now has changed when it comes to governance, risk, and compliance. And, you know, the likes of ISACA, Joe, I don't know if you're familiar with ISACA, but ISACA is a great organization, and they have, you know, entry level certifications for people that are interested in governance, risk, and compliance. So it's, you know, it's a great way to start and, you know, go online and check the different certifications, I would advise to stay away from the CISA, the CIRISC, the CISI. Those are very popular certifications, and I see a lot of entry level. I will put the name of one of the certifications that I recommend for ISACA for entry level, entry level professionals. The reason why I'm saying stay away from these three particular ones is you need a minimum of 5 years experience to be able to get the certification, and it's a lot of money as well to spend on getting that certification. You will get there, but focus on more or less the fundamentals, fundamentals of governance, risk, and compliance. ISACA does have, certifications and trainings on that. So to answer your question around the salary from entry level upwards, there is a misconception that cybersecurity has a lot of, like, you would earn millions of money when you start your career. That's not really true. And maybe it's disappointing news to hear. You will earn money in cybersecurity as you progress in your career. But I think it's best to always set your expectations when you're starting in the industry. It's very, very important because, you could have an opportunity where you're not earning as much as someone that works for a technology company, but you have the ability to move around different departments. And I'll take myself for example. I mentioned that I started as a security analyst. It was in the same company that I moved into security engineering. And it was in the same company that I moved into security consulting before I left into management. And I can tell you that I wasn't earning even, industry market rate at the time while I was at that company. But what was most important for me was the ability to, gain my skills across the different domains in security, so that when I'm progressing and I'm leaving that company, I will be way more marketable to my next employer. So the salary at the time, for GRC, or even technical security people, were really, really less. It's picking up now, and I know that for GRC roles, the minimum really should be around 35, 30, depending on if you're in the UK or you're in Ireland. But like I said, especially when you're very new in the industry, it's very important to focus on what can I actually get. Because once you have the skills, once you have the experience, it would not be a matter of should I take a less pay. It would be a matter of this is what I think my skills are, and I think you should be paying me this based off my skills. So the progression as well is just really, if you want to be a GRC analyst, if you want to be security management, if you even want to just focus on policies as well, there's different branches that you can go around. And when you do GRC, I think it's interesting. There's also third-party risk management. So there's a GRC, and then there is third-party risk management, and that's really around assessing the suppliers that the companies are going to be using, making sure that they have the right security setup. So you can tell the company, well, I think you should do business with Facebook, or I don't think you should do business with Facebook, and these are the reasons why. So there's a lot of opportunities to kind of grow and expand as well. And you also asked what career prospects for Blue Team, how easy is it to enter? It's actually quite easy to get into the Blue Team. So being a security analyst, you would be on the Blue Team side. So Blue Team is really around defending the attacks that are coming. So when you get into the industry as a security analyst, you're under the umbrella of being, a Blue Teamer, or working in the Blue Team section. The Red Team is more penetration testing. So they carry out the attack while the Blue Team defends against the attack. So while you're a Blue Teamer in the company, your role and responsibility would really be, monitoring attacks, knowing and understanding what kind of attacks. So take, for example, you're monitoring using the SIEM. So that's I'm sure we all kind of know what a SIEM is here. It's a monitoring tool that we use to monitor the network of a company. So if you see a log that comes from, say, for example, one of the payment website from the company, and you should be able to determine what kind of attack this is from that website. And how you can know is by staying up to date with, different security forums. Because like I said, I've been in the industry for about 10 years now and counting. and the threat landscape has changed. Almost every day, we're seeing new different types of attack. So you need to get plugged into blogs. There's hackernews.com, and there is, there's different security blogs that you need to. There's IT Security Guru. There's also, like blogs from the EU as well that you can stay plugged to and just get that daily news of the different types of attack. So, one of the skills that really is necessary is just being inquisitive, because you always have to be willing to learn. You always have to be willing to kind of evolve, be able to just take up responsibilities. Say, for example, you work for a company and they've asked you to only focus on vulnerability, but then there is there's a breach or there's a cyber incident. You need to be able to raise your hand and say, I'm interested in, looking at the logs and identify what type of attack this was. So I hope that answers your question, Joy. So, okay, someone asked how many teams are there. So there's blue team, there's red team, there is green team. So green teams, they're kind of known as the what they call it now, the script kiddies. It's about 7 different teams out there. And there's also gray team as well. So gray team are the kind of hackers that they can be used for good, but at the same time, they could be used for bad. So they have the right skills, and they have the right, what are we going to call it now? They have the right intentions, but then if you offer them money, they could switch sides. So there's about 7 teams in the industry, and there's also a purple team as well. So green and blue, red, and purple are the 3 major colors in terms of the teams in cybersecurity that are split. And with the red team, I mentioned that they're focused on penetration testing, while the blue team is focused on defending against the attack that comes from the red team. But the purple team is a combination of the red team and the blue team. And what that means is that when an exercise is being had, and an exercise, for example, where the red team is trying to attack and the blue team is trying to defend, they're both aware that this exercise is about to happen. So when the red team attacks, they inform the blue team, and the blue team then goes back to the red team to say whether or not they did see the attack coming through. So that's purple team as well. When the blue team and the red team comes together, it's known as purple team. So the question of how many incidents do I have to handle in a quarter? Well, that's a good question. So I've worked for different organizations. I've worked for a small company. I've worked for a big, large organization like JP Morgan. And I've also worked for, like private equity companies as well. It really depends. So, when it comes to incidents, different companies categorize what they think is a security incident. And when I started my career, every single scan, malicious scan, every single remote code execution was tagged as an incident by the client, because they wanted to be informed of every single attempt on their network and their infrastructure. And then when I moved into a big organization like JP Morgan, an incident was categorized in a different way. And for them, an incident was really if an attempt was successful. So it wasn't just, a case of, oh, someone scanned your network and they tried to, inject something. What the senior stakeholders were interested in was it successful? So when you talk, when you talk about the numbers of incidents per quarter, it could really range from 2 to 10. In my last role, in August last year, we had about 2 real security incident breach in 1 week. And that is the most that the company had in the last 2 years. So it really kind of depends, per the company you work for, as you mentioned, what their classification of a security incident is. It could be anybody that tries to scan my network, that's an incident for me. Or it could be if they scan my network and they were successful, that's an incident for me. So is it possible to work from home, and are you able to balance? It is possible to work from home. Some companies, would offer a hybrid. I can tell you for free that I'm not very happy with the back to office because now it's hybrid. But during COVID, we were all working from home and working efficiently. But now it's, I think there's a lot that, you have to kind of take into consideration when when you want to work for a company and they tell you their working model. I can tell you for sure that it's very beneficial to show up in the office. I like a hybrid model. I do a hybrid model. I was doing 3 days in the office and 2 days at home. And the benefit that I got from that was I was able to work to someone's desk to say, I need this. But the times when I was working from home, fully remote, I would, leave them a message on Teams and wait the whole day for them to get back to me. And most times they open the message and then someone distracts them and they forget to respond. But then, with the hybrid model, you can arrange your kind of calendar and days to meet and have meetings on the days when you're in the office. And then when you work from home, those would be your quiet days. So I am actually able to kind of balance, home and work life. We're still advocating for companies to, think of parents and think of, mothers, think of fathers that have, responsibilities, or even people that are caretakers as well. There is that advocacy for them to be able to organize a flexible working where you can either start at 4 o'clock and close at, sorry, you can start at 8 a.m. and close at 4, or you could start at 7 a.m. and close at 3. And also just being able to flexibly negotiate the contract to say, well, I have a child at home that is maybe a toddler, or I'm looking after a sick family member. Can I do, 3 days or 4 days in a week rather than 5 days? So there are people that are in these companies that are advocating. And JP Morgan was a really good organization that I worked for because they had a program, basically a group for working parents. So if you were part of the community of a working parent, your manager was obligated to make sure that your workload and your home life was balanced, and they just gave you that freedom and that opportunity to be able to do both responsibilities. So I have another question here from Oluwatobi, which says, as a prospective entry-level cybersecurity analyst, how do I stand out in terms of my CV as I have no work experience? This is a good question, Toby. How you can stand out really, as I said before, is by doing some certifications and also trainings. So if you're sure that the path for you is a security analyst, then that means that you're already a step ahead, even being honest with you, because then you have that clarity that this is what I want to do. There are different tools online. IBM, so I'm going to just write this down here in the chat. IBM Curator is a great scene tool. I always recommend it because it's easy to use, it's easy to, to configure. So you really want to be able to show your prospect employer that I've just put that in the chat now. You want to be able to show your prospect employer that you understand how security analysts work and their responsibilities and their roles. So you need to create your own home network. And what that means is you have a laptop, you create your virtual machine. Your virtual machine basically is going to mirror a company infrastructure. And they're really, really free online toolings that you can use, like the IBM Curator community version. It's going to access you. So what then you need to do is, I think ISC has, an introduction to cybersecurity training and certification, and it's free. So that's something that I'm going to recommend everyone on the call to, to try and get into. I would. So give me a second, I'll put that. So I'd ask everyone to go to the ISC2 website and enroll in the cybersecurity training. It's a wonderful opportunity and a wonderful idea that ISC2 came up with, because this really just opens and levels the playing field for everyone that either has the cybersecurity degree or a non-cybersecurity degree. So I will tell you for free that there's so many free certifications that you can do online. There are different tools that you can do online as well. Because when you come from a non-traditional background, the playing field isn't really fair, because then you're competing with people that have industry certifications, or degrees that, you know, those companies are looking for. So one way that you can stand out is by, you know, having the right certifications. Again, staying away from the big names, because there's a popular one called the CISSP. I see a lot of people trying to prep and practice to get the CISSP, but that's not going to give you the ground information that you need. The CompTIA Security Plus is another one that I'd recommend if you want to be a security, if you want to be a security analyst, you should also do the CompTIA Security Plus. It's very practical because that's going to tell you, you know, what you need to know and how you can do it. So one thing I can do as well is that I did write an article about 4 years ago about how you can get into cybersecurity and with no experience. So I'm going to try and share that as well, you know, in the chat. And one of the interesting things, and I would say it's a steal at that time, is that I included different links, you know, that you can do trainings for. So it's a list of resources and training programs that you can get into, you know, to be able to just get your CV out, you know, stand out as you said, and just make sure that, you know, you're equipped, because it is possible. I know about 2 people, and I have a friend that started his first job with Deloitte as a security, you know, analyst just 2 weeks ago, and he's coming from, you know, a public health background. His bachelor's is in public health, his master's is in public health, but he was able to do the CompTIA Security Plus. He did the ISC2 cybersecurity training as well, and he did about 2 other certifications, and then that made his CV way more attractive because you're hitting those key points for the recruiters and the employers that are going to be looking at your CV. The question here about what's the most challenging part of my job? I think the most challenging part of my job really is convincing people because I work in management now, and you know, I'm responsible for things like policies. I'm responsible for identifying what the company's security risk is, and also with compliance. So what that basically means is that I need people to believe in what I'm saying, even though the data is there, because you need to understand something about cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is not a money making department for any company. It's a cost department. So cybersecurity needs to prove to the business, the cybersecurity department needs to prove to the business that they can help the business make money. So what does that mean? That means that, you know, you need to run reports or present reports to senior management and stakeholders saying, because we implemented these numbers of tools, we were able to block these numbers of attack. And because we're able to block these numbers of attack, we have saved you money from, you know, fine, or from GDPR fine, for example, when we talk about data, or we've saved you, you know, reputational damage from your clients. So your clients still believe in you and they still do business with you. So I have to talk to people a lot. I have to talk to the legal team. I have to talk to procurement. I also have to talk with even the IT team as well, because you need to understand that there are the IT guys, you know, support guys, they're, you know, network engineer. They're not really under the organization of the cybersecurity team. So I have to make sure that, you know, whatever tooling is being implemented, or whoever vendor, you know, the procurement team or the marketing team wants to bring on board, that I'm aware of that vendor before they sign the contract. Because, you know, if you remember, I mentioned third-party risk management, which is one of the key aspects of the role that I cover right now, is I have to make sure that whosoever the business wants to bring in on board as a vendor, that they are the right vendor, they have the right security measures in place, they understand the data that we're going to be sharing with them, and they have protection measures around those data. So if I'm not aware, and say, for example, procurement or marketing or legal goes and bring in a new vendor and they sign the contract, that makes my work more difficult, because then I am more or less doing the security check after we've signed the contract. So I try to hold multiple workshops with, you know, the other teams outside technology, the legal team, the procurement team, the marketing team. I try to engage with them and inform them around the risk of onboarding a vendor when the vendor has not passed our security assessment. So the most challenging part of my job is really, convincing people that security is very important and that you should care about it. And the message that I always bring is cybersecurity is everyone's business. It's down to the receptionist, the cleaners, whosoever works in that organization should care about cybersecurity. I also run cybersecurity awareness programs for the companies that I work for. So I will send out phishing emails. I will send out trainings for different teams. And I can tell you for free, like I've had people tell me, oh, I'm too busy to do the training. But it's really important for everyone to do the training. So the most challenging part of my job is really just trying to pass that message across to people that are non-technical, that cybersecurity matters and the business cannot function without cybersecurity. So I'm just reading the question now from Oluwatobi. Oluwatobi mentions that they have a master's in cybersecurity, which is great, and they have the IC2 exam booked as well. That's actually perfect, Taki, that, there's going to be some preparations for the CV. I think when you're making your CV, one of the things that I would say is always very important to highlight is when you do practical work, it's okay to mention that in your CV as well. So right now, you're part of the Cyber for Women, Cyber for Women EU community. So you can really put that on your CV and then describe what you're doing with Cyber for for Women EU. It's very important. I think it's possible to be able to say I've attended 6 or 7 webinars that discuss this. I've done this training. I've done this research, and you can put that under self-learning. So it's also an experience. Just the mere fact that you're on this call right now, you're getting knowledge that is going to be very impactful in your career and your future. So it's important to be able to highlight that. And Toby as well, like, some of the things that you've done in your master's degree, I think that should also be highlighted in your CV. So in the section of your CV where you have education, mention the subjects that you learned, and mention the projects that you were involved in. If it was a group project, that's okay as well. You contributed to it. So it's important to highlight that. I think one thing that we have to learn, and I think every woman goes through it, I'm still going through it as well, is self-promotion. We're not really taught to self-promote ourselves. And it's not bragging, it's not being prideful. I think we have to be our own best advocate. So you have to remember that, the very little knowledge that you think is nothing is a lot for someone else. So every single information that you've learned, that you have, it's best to put that in your CV. Highlight your experience. Highlight what you've learned during the trainings that you've done with Cyber for Women for Cyber EU. Highlight what you've done in your masters. Highlight your projects. Just highlight every single knowledge that you have in your CV. I think it's very important to do that. Does anyone else have any question? Oh, there's a new question now about GitHub. I want to see that one. Well, interesting question, Victoria. No, I didn't have GitHub. No, I'm not a programmer. I understand programming language, but I am not a programmer. I never had to use GitHub. I think GitHub's mainly are for coding repository where you either host the code or you or you have a code to to share, or you can take someone else's code and basically run that on your system and implement it. I didn't need to do that because I think there is a misconception that in order for you to work in cybersecurity, you have to be a programmer or you have to know how to, code. That is not very accurate. You have to understand code. And understanding code comes from when you're reading, say, for example, logs from a SIEM. So let me break this down for you. If an attacker is trying to bring down this website or Teams or this channel right now that we're on the call, they're going to send a code execution. As a security analyst, you will then be responsible for understanding. So when you see the line of code that was sent, you have to understand what type of attack that attacker was trying to initiate. So it could be cross-site scripting, it could be a remote code execution, it could be, a hijack, a hijack attack. So that's where your understanding of code comes into play. Well, I didn't need to, own a GitHub account because I'm not a software developer and I'm not a programmer. So, I think it's very important for us to kind of separate that. You can learn code if that's what you're interested in, but it's not a must-have. You just need to understand coding languages. You need to understand programming languages, and you can understand that as well by keeping abreast of what's happening in the different, industries and the different blogs that would send you different types of attack. Because take, for example, hackernews.com, when, a malicious group does some malicious things and they're reporting about it, they would also include the type of attack that was used by that malicious group. And then you can learn to say, okay, well, they used a remote code execution, and the blog is going to list out what that code looks like. So that's another way that you can grow your knowledge in that. So, didn't have a GitHub account, I still don't have it now. So question around how realistic is it for someone who is a complete beginner with no relevance to start a career? It's very realistic. I'm telling you, I've in the last 4 years, I know about 3 people, and very recently one from public health, that has started a career in cybersecurity, and they didn't have any IT degree. They never worked in cybersecurity. One of my friends, she started earlier in the year as well, and she's working now for the Central Bank of Ireland, and she's coming from a HR aspect, and she never did cybersecurity until last year when she got laid off, and then she started doing training. She started attending webinars like what you're on right now, and she did a few certifications as well. So it's very realistic. I've shared the link to my article around the mindset that you should have, what you should be thinking of, the different websites that you should go as well to try and get some training. So, trust me, I know people that have done it. It's difficult. It's not easy. I'm not going to come here and tell you that, it's a walk in the park, but you need to stand up by making sure that you carry out some practical steps at home, and also engage in communities like this as well, because, one thing is for you to have a perfect CV and land that interview. Another thing is for you to be able to prove to the interviewer that you're different from every other person. And they can only see that when you talk, when you explain what you know, when you explain the skills that you have, or the willingness to learn as well. So that's something that you should have in mind as well. So my public health friend, it took him about 7 months to land the job. And my other public health friend, that he started in 2020. So he was working in public health in 2020, and he was very determined to get into the industry. And it took him about 11 months. So the first person that I knew back in 2020, it took him 11 months. So by the time he had his first job, from when he started in 2020, he signed his contract, he started working for the company at the beginning of 2022. And I can tell you that I remember a lot of frustration from him because he was writing different certifications every month. He wrote the Azure Microsoft, certification. He wrote the AWS certification as well. He did the CompTIA Security Plus, the CompTIA Network Plus. And I remember encouraging him because he was like, I'm doing all the certifications and I'm not getting the job. And I tried to remind him that he's going against people that already have degrees in technology, already have degrees in cybersecurity. But he kept on applying, and again, the opportunity for you to have a good CV that Women for Cyber is going to provide is really going to be good, because then, you know, when you understand how to tailor your CV and you always change it according to the job description, the chances are always going to be higher. So my friend that started 2 weeks ago, it took him about 7 months to land his first job. So I know that it is possible to do that. I'm just going to the chat now to see. So you're saying the Google online course we're doing, encouraging us to put our done tasks on GitHub. So the thing with with putting your done tasks, that is if you have code or work that you've done. So you can't really put your, you know, your security work. Say for example, if you've set up, you know, a VMware and you have your, you know, your SIEM, you have your intrusion detection system set up and you're monitoring different attacks. That's not something you can take screenshots and upload that on GitHub, but it's not a criteria to say that's where your employer is going to go to look for you. You know, you have to put yourself out there. Also, LinkedIn is a very good platform as well for beginners and new joiners in cybersecurity. It's very important to, you know, publicize what you're doing and what you're learning on LinkedIn, you know, so that people and your connections will be able to, you know, engage with that post, which may come to my timeline. For example, if I'm hiring and I see someone saying, oh, I'm open to internship opportunities because I'm learning about this and that. You know, I could be a second or a third connection on LinkedIn, but that comes to my timeline. And with me engaging with it, another hiring manager as well could see and say, you know what, I'm actually looking for interns. I'm going to reach out to that person. So try and publicize what you're doing on LinkedIn. You know, if you learn something new, if you get a new certification, you know, self-promote yourself. It's not a bad thing to put yourself out there and say, you know, I'm excited to get into Women for Cyber, you know, community. It's an amazing community. I'm learning how to do this. You know, just self-promote, because you would be your best advocate. You know, you'd be your best cheerleader. So just make sure that you remember to do that. So do I have any resources that I can share to help prepare for interviews? LinkedIn is a good one. I know that there are a few links as well that it's more of a reading on how to answer, you know, questions. And let me tell you a free secret. ChatGPT is your best friend for how to prepare for an interview. Because I'm gonna tell you, I use ChatGPT to prepare for interviews as well. I do. And the more you use ChatGPT, the more you get better at, you know, writing prompts. So everything is kind of free now thanks to AI. I mean, I have my, you know, my reservations on, you know, generative AI and also, you know, AI for good. But at the same time, you know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So the best way that you can prepare for an interview is if you see a job description and you're not sure what exactly it is that you need to learn from the job description, you can just basically put that in ChatGPT or even use Bing. I also use Bing from Microsoft as well. And you can say, for example, the job description says, you know, cybersecurity analyst for a multinational company. You can write in ChatGPT saying, what are the skills I need to have as a cybersecurity analyst? What would an employer be looking for during the interview? And you're going to get responses from that. And based on the response that you get from, you know, whichever artificial intelligence tool that you choose to use, you know, you will have the knowledge and the information. So if it says you should be able to, you know, use an IDS, or you should be able to know the same technology, what's your next question then to the AI? What type of IDS are being used now in today's industry? You're going to get an answer for it. So you know, I don't think that anyone should really struggle when it comes to finding information. What's most important is that you need to want to have it so bad. You know, it needs to be at the forefront of your mind that I want to get this job, I want to get this skill, and then you go out and you source for information, because every single thing when it comes to cybersecurity, I think when we look at technology as a whole, cybersecurity has advanced way beyond other technology, departments and areas, because I could say maybe in the last 4 or 5 years, more people have started showing interest in cybersecurity. When I started, I didn't know what was really involved. I didn't have anybody that I was talking to. All I just had was interest. And I said, well, I'm interested in this. I like that I can break into laptops. I like that I can, escalate privileges here and there, ethically, of course. And that just drove more and more, willingness to learn. And Google was my friend. Like ChatGPT now gives you a response in 2 seconds. Then I had to read articles and go and just search and search and search. And that's the kind of zeal that you need to be able to thrive in cybersecurity. You have to want to learn. You have to want to search for information, because as a cybersecurity analyst, it's very important for you to know how to research and get information. Because when you're monitoring or when you're investigating an incident, one thing leads to another and leads to another and leads to another. And you need to be able to know how to source for information and gather information to present to either your team or senior management. So that's something that you should have in mind, is that information online is free and you can get that information. Well, you can. I'm not very sure what the details of the Google training is, but I know that the Google training does talk about different security aspects. So it would be, but in order for you to write the Computer Security Plus, you have to go through training, because again, cybersecurity is broad. We're talking about 8 domains that tells you to do different things. They're transferable skills. So I'd always advise that, before you write a certification, try and do some trainings on there, and then, make sure you're prepared to write the exam. The question around practical training, I put the link as well. So IBM Curator is a SIEM. I don't know if you are familiar with what a SIEM is. A SIEM is basically security information and event management. So it's basically, a tool that helps you just detect, analyze, and respond to security threats. And as a security analyst, you're going to be using that. Like, that would be your best friend, because that's where all the information that comes from the client's environment, your company's environment, all the information from all the computers, the servers, both in the cloud and on-prem, everything is going to go there. So just kind of make sure that you're familiar with that and how it works. Okay, someone said that they were hoping to land their first job in 2 months. It is possible as well. So I'm only just giving you the timeline based off the people that I know, because you always have to, remember that everyone's timeline is different. It is possible, to land a job in 2 months, but it's also very important to set realistic expectations. That way you're not disappointed and you don't feel like you've wasted your time, because it will take time. Cybersecurity, the industry right now has moved, from just millions and ones of entry-level jobs to some companies looking for mid-senior level. So you always have to be very patient as well. And remember that, you have something to give and you're not going to stop until you get it. And you can show that, you're valuable to the company. It's just best to have realistic expectations around when you can get your job. There's a misconception again that it's fast money. The moment you have all your certifications, you're going to get 6 figures job. Very best to set the right expectations and just know that, you will get there, but it would be a journey to get there. Yes, good question. Is it good idea to apply and start with service desk analyst role? This is a really good question, because yes, it is important to take the opportunity to get into the industry. You can start with IT support. You can start with service desk analyst as well. As long as the company has an IT department, even though they don't even have a security department, you could build that security department. You could be the person that builds that security department by saying, I actually have security skills as well. Maybe I should be responsible for our antivirus. Maybe I should be responsible for, our intrusion detection systems. Yes, any opportunity, IT support, service desk analyst, IT officer, any IT role that you see, it's very important to take that opportunity and get in because you're already through the door. The next thing then will be for you to work towards getting it on the table. Because if you remember what I said, I had 3 promotions in the same company that I was working with, going from a security analyst to a security engineer to a security consultant. So that was an opportunity that I took and I saw in the same company. So I didn't need to move around different companies to have those 2 other roles. I was able to climb the ladder in the same role. So yes, it's a very good question. And yes, I think you should start applying for service desk analyst because again, that's your opportunity and the way for you to get in. Yes, it's possible to get into JRC with unconventional backgrounds. We are trying to, break that barrier of even a degree. Some companies now don't require you to have a degree. All they just ask for you is to have the zeal and have certifications. So don't be afraid to put, your foot forward. So what support is available at work when you're in a job role? Well, there are different supports. There are actually different supports. And you said, are there cybersecurity teams such in organizations, or are you considered the expert? Well, it depends. If you work for a smaller company, you may have to wear multiple hats, which would mean, either you're responsible for monitoring, you're responsible for vulnerability management. It could also mean that, you're responsible for even meeting the clients. Because one thing that I learned as well was that security people don't like to talk to people. And I didn't know that because I just enjoyed talking to clients and talking to the customers that we had. So, you know, whatever skills you have, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, that can shine through. And there will be support. We always hope to get into companies that understand our skills, and we always hope to get the good managers. And sometimes that works, sometimes that don't work. I've had, horrible managers in my career, and I've had good managers as well. But I think all in all, you have to remember that this is your personal journey and this is where you want to be. And you make sure that you get enough knowledge and just move on and move forward. Someone asked a question around, is there a field within cybersecurity where, yes. So being a cybersecurity analyst, open source intelligent skills is highly needed because if you remember what I said, you could be doing an investigation and that uncovers something else. So your ability to actually know how to connect the dots or how to source for information and how to research is way valuable than you think. So yes, you could be a security engineer with open source intelligence background. You could be, a security analyst. You could even be a threat intel analyst as well, because that's another role that exists within the cybersecurity team is threat intel analyst. So your OSINT skills would be very, very valuable in that aspect as well. Oh yeah, I see that someone mentioned that you guys are learning about the SIEM. So that's amazing. So you definitely, look at the IBM Curator. It's easy to use. Like I said, it takes a lot of patience to learn how to kind of move around the tool. But as long as you have that zeal and that patience, it's gonna be, it's gonna be okay. And I'm excited to really see one of you or two of you or three of you 2 3 years from now in the industry. I'm really happy for, like I said, the platform like this, just to be able to grow and hone and learn your skills and come into the industry. There are women here that are going to be supporting you. I champion women at every opportunity that I get because I'm sick and tired of being the only woman in the room. I don't want to be the only woman in the room 5 years from now. And I'd really, really, hope and look forward to a time when someone will say, oh yeah, I got a job, 1 year or 2 years or even 5 years after, you spoke to us and I'm here now. So, it's my hope and my desire that, you persevere and you keep going because cybersecurity is hard. It's not simple. It's not easy, but it's very rewarding and it's worth it. It's a wonderful industry to be in, and you can move around and you can grow, and it's just interesting. So just always remember that you're here for something and you're here for a purpose, and you should just make sure that you go for that purpose.
Thank you very much, Blessing. I see there are still a couple of questions coming, but we're already 5 minutes over time. So maybe, Blessing, if you don't mind, I can note down a couple of these questions and maybe you can write your answers so we can share them afterwards, if that's okay.
I'll be happy to do so.
Great. I'm so happy to see that you guys had so many questions. It's very nice to have, it's really nice to see how engaged and excited you are about this. And yeah, I think we're going to close it here. Thank you very much, Blessing.
Thank you, everyone. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in the industry. Just keep it up and keep going. Thank you very much for this platform as well, Saki. It's nice to meet you again, and we'll keep in touch. And if you have any questions, I'm also on LinkedIn, so kind of feel free to reach out, and hopefully I can answer it to the best of my knowledge.
That would be great. And for everyone, just so you know, we've mentioned it, but this session has been recorded and we will share it afterwards in case you want to rewatch it. We will also share the different resources that Blessing has shared, as well as her LinkedIn account and some of the initiatives that she's working on for your information. I see some very exciting people saying that they will reach out on LinkedIn. So expect a lot of invitations, Blessing.
Okay, thank you. All right, then. Have a good evening, everyone. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Have a nice evening, everyone. Oh, yes, Matti, I see a hand up. Hello, Oluwatobi, do you have a question?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, ma'am. So I said I'm done. I'm now done with the Coursera certification.
Toby. Sorry, I don't hear you very well.
I just said I'm done with the certification.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello? Yeah, more or less.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I think so.
I said I've rounded up the Coursera certification. I'm done with it.
You're finished?
Yeah, I'm finished.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What next?
Well, then we have a series of webinars. You can, of course, meet with your mentor for more dedicated advice on your specific case and goals. And we will share very soon the dates of the next the workshops on CV preparation, interview preparation. We also have, but this won't be ready until March, a database where you can register for cybersecurity recruiters to reach out to you. And in the meantime, I'm going to put in the chat. Just 1 second. A link to our website where you can register for a weekly newsletter with job openings.
Okay.
But I would recommend, have you been matched already on the mentorship program?
Yeah, I have. I already reached out to my mentor.
Okay. Sorry, you mind telling me who your mentor is?
Elaine Olayemi.
Okay. Well, then someone from my team will organize the first meeting soon, if it hasn't happened already. And then you get to talk to your mentor and get more personalized support.
All right.
All right. And if you have any questions, you can always write to us.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations. You were very fast.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day. I'll put it in the chat and I'll share that also on the follow-up email tomorrow morning.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Hello, Mayen. I see that you haven't been matched with anyone. We're working towards that, so you will be matched soon, before the end of the week. And I don't know your particular case, but we always recommend to list as many available slots as you can, because especially Friday evenings and evenings, we have less mentors available during those times. So just for you to know, the more available slots that you have, the easiest it will be for us to match you. Bye-bye, everyone.